Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. You are listening to the Brittney Bundles podcast, where we empower people through entrepreneurship. And today what I'd like to focus on and talk about is practicing good habits. I want to talk about the importance of training our mind to develop habits that are going to be beneficial for us, and also to develop our mind to discard habits that are not so beneficial for us and that are keeping us behind in every aspect of our lives, including our businesses. So if you are someone where you feel like you are needing to hone in on becoming more structured in your everyday life and in your business, if you're someone where you are feeling like you are needing to become a lot more organized, and if you're someone that all around wants to become a better version of themselves, I do feel like this is going to be a great episode for you. So like I say in every podcast episode, I do encourage you all to share the podcast. It not only helps the podcast grow, but it also helps other entrepreneurs and other products and services and businesses get exposure. And so we are wanting to collectively do anything that we can do to grow the entrepreneurial realm, and we want to have as many people as we possibly can benefit from the information that we go over on this platform. So I'm going to give you all a moment to share the podcast. You can share it via social media. You can share it by sending a link via text message. You can share the podcast episode by, what else? What are some other ways? Kind of drew a blank, but DMing someone or turning on the podcast when you are in the car. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a moment to do that, and I'll be right back and we'll get started. All right, so we are back. We're back. And the first thing that I'd like to talk about in regards to practicing good habits is first identifying what a habit is. So I Googled it, and a habit is defined as a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. And they have an example. We stayed together out of habit, which inspired me to create another episode on my Girl Talk segment on Patreon. So if you are not on Patreon and tuning into my Girl Talks, you're missing out. You can definitely join in by going to patreon.com/Brittney Bundles. And then you'll be able to join in on the conversations there. But back to what we're talking about. A habit is something that is practiced regularly, okay? Something that you typically do day to day, okay? So just thinking back, and I want everyone to think about their personal lives and their business lives conjoined, okay? What are some of the things that you typically do day to day, sometimes without even thinking about, that are either good or bad habits in relation to what your overall goals are? I know for me, I have used social media as a platform for my business, but there are some times that I get on social media just to scroll, and I can find myself becoming, or I can find myself developing a habit of grabbing my phone and just scrolling, not looking for anything in particular, but scrolling. And if I'm not conscious or cautious, I can find myself spending more time than I need to on social media. So that's a habit that I have formed that I'm wanting to break, because there's nothing wrong with social media, but anything that you do excessively or anything that you're doing that is taken away from time that you could be productive is something that is worth being reevaluated. Now, there are times where you should allow yourself grace and freedom to just relax, and just do whatever you want to do, whether it be scrolling on social media or not. But there are also times where we find ourselves partaking in leisure activity when there's a lot of other things that need to be done. And what ends up happening sometimes, if we're not disciplined, is we push the things that need to be done to the back burner, and we end up reaping or losing out on reaping the benefits that we would have reaped if we would have stayed on focus. So it's amazing to me how powerful our minds are and how powerful we are in relation to developing actions for our everyday life. If there's something that we don't like about what we're doing, we have the power to change it. And so, I did some more research because I always thought that a habit took 21 days to develop. And also a habit took 21 days to stop. And there's some research that discredits that 21-day rule. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the names correctly, but Philippia Laley, PhD, a senior researcher at University College London, published a study that found it actually takes an average of 66 days, so more than 2 months, to form a habit, which still gives us the power to be able to control what we're doing and what type of habits we're forming. So the second thing that I want to go to is what habits are not productive for you. So this is going to look different for everyone. In order for us to get organized, because there's a lot of times where people are like, hey, I just don't have time to run my business. I want to run my business, but I don't have time. And two things that I find are in common with a lot of these scenarios is, number one, the lack of organization. Number two, the lack of discipline. And that two, the lack of discipline, it kind of goes hand in hand with bad habits that we've developed. So sometimes we have a habit of pushing things to the back burner, like I just mentioned. Sometimes we have a habit of allowing different people's thoughts or different life events to take over and discourage us from wanting to move forward with our business. Sometimes we have a habit of telling ourselves lies like, okay, this business venture isn't going to work anyways, or this idea really isn't smart anyways, or why are you wasting your time doing something like this where you're not going to get anything, when you're not going to get anything out of it, excuse me. So sometimes we have developed bad habits that are directly impacting the way that our business is growing or not. So what habits are not productive for you that you're doing? And what are you going to do to commit to breaking those habits? I know for me, some of the habits that I have, what I have begun to do is write down those habits so that I'm completely aware of what I want to focus on. I'm completely aware of where I'm at. And each day I have my planner. I am marking down every day that I stick to the script because I want a consecutive 66 days, which sometimes it can take longer, sometimes it could be shorter, but I want, for my personal goal, a consecutive 66 days of me not partaking in any activities that are going to be destructive or disruptive to my overall progression. And I challenge you all to do the same as well. And if any of you want to join in and send me an email going over how your 66 days went, I'd love to hear it. Send me an email at the letter B as in boy, talks@yahoo.com. Third thing that I want to go over is how long does it take to develop healthy habits? Okay. And there's another study that says on average, it takes more than 2 months before behavior comes automatic, 66 days to be exact. And it also says, and how long it takes a new habit to form can vary widely depending on the behavior, the person, and the circumstances. In Laley's study, it took anywhere from 18 days to 254 days for people to form a new habit, meaning that 66 days is not going to work for everyone. 21 days won't work for everyone. Everybody is unique and every circumstance is unique. But figuring out what your time frame for your specific habit is going to be is really intriguing to me, because again, it goes back to the fact that we have the power to control how successful or non-successful we're going to be based on the actions that we do each day. And a lot of that takes some structure and discipline to control what your mind is thinking and to still push forward even when you don't feel like it. Sometimes people have a habit of watching TV all day, and you think back throughout your day and you're like, look, if I wouldn't have watched TV for 6 hours straight, I could have got this, and this done. Sometimes people have a habit of spending their time doing things like maybe gossiping or arguing or, I don't know, talking to people all day about things that really, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter. You know what I mean? And you look back and you're like, wow, I spent a lot of time involved in certain matters that could have been directed to progression. Okay, so that's something that we want to be cautious of doing. Distraction. What are you allowing to come into your life? What are you allowing to distract you? And what are you making a habit of doing or not doing? Fourth point that I like to go over is how will you structure your day to encompass healthy habits? So some things that I have started doing more is being intentional on how much water intake I take. Because when I was pregnant, I couldn't drink as much water as I wanted to without vomiting. For some reason, water just made me sick throughout my entire pregnancy, the taste of water. And so now that I'm not pregnant, I'm trying to get my body reused to drinking water, because I had a habit before of drinking water a lot more than I do now. And I want to get that habit back. That was a healthy habit. And the healthier that your body is, the better your mind functions, the better your body functions, the better your days a lot of times will be, because you're feeling better, you're thinking better, you're at your best. I'm also wanting to get back to eating properly. I've got out of eating healthy for about the last 2 years. And that was something that I really wanted to start doing before I got out of that habit. And so now I'm trying to redevelop that habit so that I can have the benefits of feeding my body great fuel. Also, another thing, I got away from putting a lot of the things that I wanted to accomplish in my planner. And so some things I forgot about doing, just out of being, a natural human. And so now I'm wanting to make sure that I'm getting back into the habit of putting things in my planner, even things that I feel like I couldn't remember. I still want to make sure that I'm putting them in my planner so that I'm not overlooking anything. So ask yourself, how will you structure your day-to-day to encompass healthy habits? What can you do? And I encourage all of you to write at least 5 different healthy habits that you're committed to doing for at least 66 days. If there's something that is distracting you that's very negative, I challenge you to try and X that out of your life for 66 days. You know what I mean? And everyone has a different scenario. I'm not telling you to quit your job or anything rash like that. You have to make your own decision. But I am saying, if there's something that is negative in your life, I would definitely consider getting rid of that and replacing it with something positive so that you can see the results. The last thing that I want to go over is focus is key. It is very important to stay focused on what it is your end goal is going to be. A lot of times there are so many talented, creative entrepreneurs that really lose focus, and the world doesn't get to see what their vision was for their business. They don't get to benefit from their business idea. And like I say in a lot of different podcast episodes, when you create a business, it's not just for you. It impacts everyone else that you come into contact with, and sometimes people you don't come into contact with. There's the motivation factor that people, may feel or may spark inside of them when they hear about what you're doing or see what you're doing. You have the aspect of helping others grow and teaching others and providing products and services that are going to be beneficial in others' lives. And so there's a lot of different benefits. You also have the benefit of starting your journey of creating financial freedom for yourself and your family. So there's a lot of good things that come out of running a business that don't just affect the entrepreneur that's starting and running the business. It affects a lot of people around them and a lot of people that are associated with them as well. So staying focused is so imperative. And that could be something that you can put down for your habit as well, if you are wanting to make sure that you're staying focused each day. Although it's a broad goal to put down stay focused, I'd probably break that up into more specific goals. But the point is, it is very imperative to stay focused and to make sure that we're creating action steps each day that are positive and getting in the habit of doing these action steps so that we can actually see results. There's a lot of people that start something and then stop and wonder why they're not going where they want to go. For example, I used to exercise and then stop like after a month after not seeing the results, because I'm like, I don't feel like doing it anymore. I'm not really seeing nothing anyways. And although my mind knew that it would take longer than a month to see the results I wanted to see, I just wanted to take the easy way out. If I'm being honest, I just didn't want to be disciplined enough to continue to exercise. And so that same analogy, sometimes is very true. and representative of how our entrepreneurial journey works as well, where sometimes we just get into this mindset of constantly trying something and then it just not working and we stop. And when I say constant, we're doing this daily for about 5-10 days, maybe even a month, and then we stop. But if we can develop a habit, something past 66 days, something past 200 and something days, and it begins to be second nature to us, think about how beneficial that would be in our overall life and also business. So I challenge you all to really hone in on that and focus on what you can do to get rid of the bad habits that are currently affecting your life and replace those with healthy habits. So I really hope that you took something from this podcast. Like I say in every episode, I don't want this to end. If you are wanting to be a guest on the Brittney Bundles podcast, we'd love to have you to promote your business, to share information about your habit journey, to promote a product or service. Again, we'd love to have you. Be sure to reach out to me via email. My email is the letter B as in Brittney, btalks@yahoo.com. Also, please follow me on social media. I am on Instagram at Brittney_bundles. That is Brittney, BRITTNEY_bundles, BUNDLES. I'm on Facebook, Brittney Bundles, Twitter, Brittney Bundles, and YouTube, Brittney Bundles. Until next time, I'll talk to you all in the next podcast episode.